All right. Hello, everyone. And I am so honored to welcome Samantha Kriss here today with us. Welcome,
Hello.
Samantha. And you are a success coach, change management professional. You're
Yeah,
also a best-selling author of Bossing Up and a TEDx speaker and coach. I
that's
am,
right.
yay. I'm so excited to have you here today on this International Women's Day as a strongly inspirational woman. And, there's so much to learn from you and to share. Let's just dive into bossing up. I mean, you published that book. You developed an incredible community in Montreal. What is bossing up, Samantha Kriss, is about?
Oh my goodness, it's such a loaded question. So we'll start with me, I guess, because that kind of paves the path for bossing up a little bit. So I kind of fell into entrepreneurship. I was in corporate, really loving it. And I guess I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial flair. I was that kid on the playground who would always like braid the bracelets and make the Christmas cards and then go sell them to everyone who would be willing to give me 30 seconds of their time. And just like very business oriented. And so when I started in corporate, I loved it. I loved the structure. I loved the team. I loved having company goals. And I also saw, I got a really unique perspective, kind of peek behind the curtain of how lonely it is to be the one operating a business, to be the one who's trusted to have the answers and the direction. And oftentimes they're doing it for the first time and they're feeling a lot of pressure. And given the nature of my role at the time, I was traveling a lot with the executive team and had the opportunity to work through some of these limiting beliefs, work through some of the challenges and opportunities that they were faced with, and thought, wouldn't it be great if I can do this at scale? Wouldn't it be great if I can work with people who know where they want to go, who know that they have it in them, but don't know how to get there? And so I spent another few years working in marketing, in communications, in the employee experience realm, and finally decided, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to really capitalize on. I understand storytelling, I understand marketing, I understand connecting with people. I can help people. I can use these tools to really help them set and achieve their goals. And so around the same time as that was really coming together, I started my business and I was like, oh shoot, I don't have any money to help me grow this thing. I am lacking resources like design skills and legal knowledge. And there's got to be other people in the same boat who are also trying to build things, who have a different set of skills, who might be willing to swap with me in what I have to offer. And so I started a Facebook group called Service Swap. And it was basically a bartering community where I would say, this is what I'm good at. Here's what you're good at. Could we partner up and help each other grow? And eventually we did grow. Our businesses grew, our side projects, our side hustles grew. And members would come to me and say, hey, Sam, is it okay if I charge for my services?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have paying clients now and I don't really need to do it for free. And so the group evolved into Bossing Up, which is all about elevating yourself and others. It's about creating opportunities for success for you and for your community. And that was around the same time I started writing my book. And I thought, I am writing my book for these people, for my people, for the community of people who want more, who are capable of more, and who want to link arms with others to achieve greater things together. So the book is named after the group, which is Bossing Up.
Amazing. Wow, what a journey. It always is an evolutionary process for us to get there.
Yes.
And I can definitely relate to, every step of the process that you named. And it feels like we're in a very, like, we're shifting to a paradigm of, relating and doing business in a conscious way today. And when we think
Absolutely.
about the old ways, unfortunately, I believe they're still living in our DNA, in our, fears, subconscious fears sometimes. and fear of competition, fear of not having enough, all that stuff. So I think there has to be like an internal shift that has to happen for us, like individually. For myself, I'm shifting that paradigm right now. That's why I'm celebrating women and bringing incredible women to the summit, to the panel, for us to learn from each other, to celebrate, to not versus this like mentality of like, no, let's just do our own thing separately. It's like, no, let's just level it up, uplift each other, and collaborate, and learn. So what do you think, like on a personal development level, what is that switch from, especially you've got experience in the corporate where like bossing, or the boss was like, there was this like hierarchy system, and now it's like, okay, how can it be more of an ecosystem where everybody's perspective is valuable, and we can have our needs met, and it's a win-win-win kind of scenario. Can you speak about that?
I think it starts with understanding and fundamentally believing in the value that you bring to the table. And that's a lot easier said than done, but knowing that you are a key player, knowing that you bring skills and ideas and value to the team, you start to show up differently, you start to communicate differently, and you want to collaborate because you know that you can help other people achieve. And when you speak to their motivators and when you can help them get what they want, they're going to want to help you get what you want. And that, I think, is the second piece of the puzzle, is knowing what you want. Because for a long time, I followed an imposed vision of success. We are conditioned, I'll speak for myself anyway, I was conditioned to think the title and the salary and the car and the house and then the family, and there was like this sequence of doing things, and I fell into that pattern, and I started to live that life, and I convinced myself I wanted those things when in fact not all of them resonated with me. And so when I got really clear on the value that I brought, and I got really clear on what it is I wanted, I became comfortable in putting my hand up and asking for help, and asking other people how I can help them, and seeing how we can forge partnerships that would ultimately serve ourselves and our communities. So if you don't know your value and you don't know what you want, you will be on that hamster wheel for a very long time, trying to chase happiness, chase other people's vision of success, and feel bogged down by competition because you're feeling like other people are doing things you want when you don't know what it is you want. When you get clear on that, everything else is irrelevant. You don't see competition, you see collaboration, you see opportunities. And that's exactly what we're creating here.
Yes, absolutely. I get it, because I've been there. I climbed that, those mountains, and it was very lonely, and it was like, oh man, wrong mountain.
Right.
Not my thing. It might be
Right.
someone else's jam, but not mine. So it's quite a journey and a quest to have that courage to go within and really dig deep, travel the unconventional paths, and really seek for what's there. It takes us to the next question, like, how do we get there? Because it's like, it's not a straightforward road, right? It's not a straight path.
Right.
It's not an elevator that takes us there. Like, nobody can sell you that or package that or tell you where to go.
Right.
I think it's like a personal journey that we have to quest. So what's in your experience, like, how do you coach people, invite people to get to there, to reclaim their own truth, their own, story, their message that's unique to them, right?
Yeah, it is unique. And I love the exercise, the 5 why exercise, or 7 why. And I've kind of adapted this to call it 5 layers deep or 7 layers deep. And it's ultimately getting to your why, your purpose. And I resisted that for a long time because I was like, man, purpose is so big. Like, does everyone need a purpose? What if we don't have one? What if we can't find it? There's something inherent in you that you want on a level that's bigger than you are. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. You were placed on this planet to achieve it, but it's something in you that you know that you're capable of, that you want to do, and that no matter what is the undercurrent of the decisions that you make. And so for me, doing that exercise of first identifying, to the best of my knowledge, what do I want? High level, I want to help people. Okay, great. Why? So here's where we start digging deeper. Why does that matter? And with every time you ask this question, you're going to get a different answer. And once you've got to about the 5th or 7th, between there, 5 to 7 answers, you're going to find the true core of that desire, of that want. And I think you'll find, as I did, there's no one path. When I finally got down to it, my why, my kind of raison d'être, the reason I'm here, is to make an impact. And the reality is I can do that in corporate. I can do that as an entrepreneur. I can do that as a homeless person. Like, there's no one path. But when you know what's going to make you happy, maybe being homeless is not the answer, but you know that you can find that happiness in multiple channels, in multiple directions, and that there is not only one route to get there. And so once I was able to really understand, and when I work with my clients for them to understand, we start to explore the possibilities of what else could this look like. Maybe that looks like a new relationship. Maybe that looks like a new job. Maybe that looks like picking up a new hobby. But when you know what it is that you truly want to do, and you can dedicate your energy to bringing that to fruition, you'll find happiness and fulfillment in areas you would have never thought of before.
I know you and I spoke earlier about especially how, leaders in the corporate world are also transitioning. We are awakening. We want more fulfillment. We want, to be fulfilled in many areas of our lives. We want to also incorporate and bring that to our workspaces, in terms of collaborations, our relationships, right? So it's a shift of paradigm and expressing those stories, expressing that new desire, expressing that bigger why. And I've done that exercise before. There's a lot of fear sometimes that arises from that, especially when you get to like the 7 level deep. I mean, I remember I was like crying. I'm like, oh my God, how am I ever going to, my mission is to empower women and, make, assist them to live in their fullness. And that means like, I got to do it first, right? And there's a lot of fear there. So like, how do you think that fear, like what are some of the main fears or common fears that stop people, where we get paralyzed, the 3 common things like freeze, flee, fight, and how do we move past those fears? Of course,
I think it's different for everyone. I can't say that there are 3 cookie cutter kind of common fears, but a lot of it comes down to either insecurity or unworthiness, and on some level feeling afraid of not what if I fail, but what if I succeed? And that's something I feared for a long time. And before I started my business and I was really on the corporate trajectory, which I absolutely loved, but I wasn't fully satisfied. I had this curiosity of entrepreneurship. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to get on stages. And I knew that if I pursued that vision, if I pursued that curiosity and those interests, that my marriage would fall apart. And it was a really, really, really difficult realization. And so I kind of ignored it and I swept it under the rug and I tried to be happy with what I had. And there came the guilt and the shame of, why aren't you happy? You have a great partner, you have a great job, you have everything success looks like you have. Why isn't that enough? And so I started to turn that inward. I am not enough. I am not worthy. There's something wrong with me. Why isn't this making me happy? And the more I really reflected and turned inward and recognized that I wasn't fully satisfied and I could go the duration of my life being half full, or I can make some really tough decisions and go all in, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about what could be, what happens if I fail was on my mind, but what happens if I succeed was really there. And I've seen a kind of recurring theme with my clients is, what does it mean if I get the client, if I close the deal, if I sell my business, if I move locations? am I going to have to, are my kids going to have to change schools? Am I going to have to completely build from the ground up? Am I going to have to put myself out there in the public eye? There's a lot of fear that comes with actually succeeding, because once you've made that commitment and you've put that intention out and you know people know that you're working on it, well, now they're going to keep you accountable. Now it's out there. And that's scary. That's scary because that comes with judgment. That comes with people's preconceived beliefs that they're going to project onto you. But it goes back to knowing your why and to knowing what you want. And if you can get crystal clear on that, not that you won't be afraid, but the curiosity outweighs the fear.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yes. Curiosity outweighs the fear. I love that. We should have that as a mantra. Oh my God. And there's so much in what you just said, and how much, I can relate to this. Also having this, so quote unquote successful marriage and Navy and, career that looked good, but, it was kind of mediocre. And I was okay with it for some time, but there was no fulfillment in here. Like there was just a big chunk of my heart that I knew I could be better, be more. There was just more to life that I wasn't like grasping and living. I was like, okay, let's just take this first step and see what's out there, see how I can make it happen. And of course, I had to make a lot of changes.
Right.
But right now, looking back, I'm like, that's the best decision I ever took in my life. And I would have never imagined my life to be the way it is right now. Yeah. I'm just in awe. The moment I wake up, I'm just like, I just can't stop. Like, I'm in gratitude, and then, constant creation, something, on this interview with people like yourself and other amazing empowered women here. It's just mind-boggling. And I know that it's not just, I also want to talk about this analogy of the iceberg that, I use. And very often, we live in this busy world of social media and external facades. So we see that everything looks so easy and, good on social media. Right. So we see this tip of the iceberg. And people often tell me like, oh, you're happy-go-lucky. You're such a, things come easy to you. And it's just like, you don't know my story, and I'm like, there is, a lot of load underneath the, the highlights that you see.
Right.
That, there is no magic of getting there. But I think there's something to be said to, demystifying that, what it looks like on the outside, but ultimately, like, there's a lot of progress. There are challenges, but, we've got to step into like, like almost like embracing challenges. Right. And embracing progress. And then that leads to mastery, and it takes us to new realms. We see that in sports a lot, how, it takes a lot of training and a lot of, gym hours before they play on the big screen and get paid the big dollars, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So I can relate to what you're saying, how important it is. So let's talk more about that. Like, what is the biggest challenge that was there for you, and how were you able to overcome it? What did you learn from it? But would love to hear. Putting you on the hot seat.
Gosh. Hands down, I was my own biggest challenge. There's no bigger obstacle, no bigger naysayer than I was, especially when I was first getting started in business. I left corporate with a heightened sense of confidence. I earned 5 promotions in 5 years. I doubled my salary in that time. I was super well supported by my team and leadership, had a lot of great people on my path, and went into entrepreneurship with delusional expectations of how quickly I would be in business. And my ego took such a hit when I just convinced myself, oh, all I need is a website and internet, and I could start bringing in clients. And, my background's in marketing. And so I know how to market, and I know how to storytell, and I know how to put together an offer and bring it out there in a way that resonates with people. And I thought, oh, I got this. And I launched my website, and I was like, come on. And then crickets, because I didn't follow every step of the process, but I also didn't realize that or not that I didn't realize, I didn't internalize the difference between bringing a product to market with a company that's already established, that has a clientele, that has prospects, that have people interested, versus someone entirely new on the scene, calling myself a coach for the first time, asking people to trust me with their lives, with their money, and they had never heard of me before. And so there was a lot of work that needed to be done in building my brand and building my reputation and building the trust with my target audience that needed to happen before I could ethically say, yes, I can help you. And yes, this is going to be worth your hard-earned dollars. And that came with its set of challenges. There was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of negative self-talk. Who are you anyway? That I needed to overcome. And I could not have done it without the support of my coaches and my network. And I'm super, super grateful for the Bossing Up community, who at the same time were going through a lot of the same things that I was going through. And it made it just so nice to have people who could relate, who were not my friends or family who've known me forever, but who can look at me with a fresh set of eyes and saying, you've really got something here. Because not that I'm about to complain, but when I have friends and family cheering in my corner, I'm so grateful they're there. But I was the kid who like learned to catch a ball, and my mom was like, oh, she's going to be a baseball player. Like there was no shortage of support and of belief that I kind of expected from friends and family. And so I felt like I needed the validation from people who didn't know me in my concept, not necessarily in me, but in my concept. And once I had that, I was able to start believing it, because I needed my own validation. I needed to be confident in bringing my voice out and stepping on stage and promoting the things that I was working on if I was going to have anyone sign up or agree to work with me. And so long story short, my own coaches have been really, really, really helpful. And I am coached just about for everything. I have a speaker coach, a podcast coach, a life coach, a business coach. I'm probably forgetting a couple, but I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't absorb the knowledge and the wisdom of people who know where I want to go, who have done it before, who can help me get there faster, with more ease, and with the support I need to put those limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome moments and self-doubts at bay.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you for mentioning that. Of course, I can't say enough how mentorship has been so pivotal for me as well, because for years before that, I tried to do it on my own. I'm like, hey, we've got so much free information out there. And I've been going to trainings and reading books and, having, some following some inspirational people in my life. But what really moved the needle for me was having a coach,
Right.
having accountability. And it was a really humble step of like saying, you know what, I am ready to be the humble, eager apprentice and
Yeah.
do the homework and apply it.
So,
Right.
I mean, you bring up a really great point, because yes, all the information is available, and I have no doubt that you would be able to do it alone. But why? Why do it alone? Why spend the time? Why spend the money? If someone can say, Marina, I've done it. Don't fall into that trap. I know someone who can help. I've built something that can help. There's a software that can automate some of the stuff you're spending so much time on. And I mean, I know you're also a Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi fan. Their whole idea with masterminds and master classes are to condense decades into days. So if you can take someone's experience and hardship and lessons and expedite that path for you, why wouldn't you?
Right. Yes, yes, yes. And again, talking even more to that, it's like, this morning I had a meeting with, marketing guy, and he was supposed to graduate from marketing school and have this traditional education. And I'm like, how much of that knowledge are you applying today? He's like, very little to none. it's not accurate today. So a lot of it comes from skills and experiences, direct experiences and skills, versus something that we learned, in theory in school. And then, by the time we graduate, it's old.
Mm-hmm.
We need to self-educate ourselves. So yeah, definitely, there's so much to be said to, peers around us, masterminds and mentors,
Right.
for sure. I want to shift gears and ask you, a great question about, being in this busy world with so much offers and information out there. I personally, struggled with it a fair amount and still do, because I'm still in the phases of like really, being more specific and, narrowing things down. I think we can learn a lot from you, how to find that authentic voice and build a brand that really stands out.
I love this question because it did not come easy for me. It's not something that is inherent or intuitive for me. I had to learn it, and if I can learn it, anyone can. And I think what was a really, really humbling experience was the TEDx experience. And I submitted my application. I have a proprietary way of goal setting that I wanted to bring to the TEDx stage, which I initially introduced in my book. And immediately upon getting the confirmation that I was accepted was that same imposter syndrome, same self-talk of like, oh, now you have to do this. Who's going to watch it? Is it going to go viral? Are you going to sound smart? All these things. And I put so much pressure on myself to sound smarter and to be someone I wasn't, that it was a really, really, really difficult experience. It was a beautiful, good experience, but it was so hard because I don't even know, I'm getting like emotional talking about it. I had somewhere along the way convinced myself that what I had to say as is wasn't good enough, that my story wasn't good enough. Who's going to relate? Have I faced enough hardship to be relatable, to be the one that people want to go through the trenches with? Have I seen enough success to be inspirational enough? And it was just like, oh my God, so much clutter that I was adding into the narrative I was trying to deliver. And I practiced my talk. I reiterated it. I was changing it. Do not recommend it up until the week before the talk, trying to make it good enough. And I got on stage and I started my talk. I got a few minutes in. I lost my train of thought a little bit, but was able to pick back up because I knew the flow, but I didn't pick up where I was intending to pick up. And I finished, and there was 3 minutes left on the clock. I had forgotten 3 full minutes of my talk. And I was looking at the timer, and I'm trying not to let the audience know. And there's no salvaging it. There's no going back because I have no idea what I forgot. I don't know where I can plug it back in. And so I did this like thank you kind of bow, which I've also never done before. And that was it. And I walked off stage and I thought, I totally butchered it. And what was a huge bucket list goal for me, something I'd been looking forward to for almost a year, I got off stage and wanted to cry. It was like, I was so hard on myself. And my dad and my mom were like, oh my God, you did so good. And I was like, don't talk to me. Like, that was not good. Like, I was obviously very appreciative, but I was so hard on myself. And I had to wait 2 months before seeing the actual video, and like 2 months of torture of what did I forget? And how did I sound? And is this going to help my credibility? Is it going to ruin my credibility? And when I saw the recording, it's a short talk. It's 11 minutes, but the parts that I left out were all the research, were all the words that were not mine. It was everything that was not me. And what remained was like a very, very authentic version. It was truly just me on stage. And the response has been so beautiful. And it has been such an incredible business development tool, an outreach tool. It has catapulted my speaking career. It has really positioned me as a thought leader. all the things I convinced myself it wouldn't, because I tried to fit in and squeeze in so much of other people's research and other people's credibility. And it was a truly humbling experience that what remained and what resonated and what is performing is me and is my story. And it's not perfect. It was my very first talk on stage as an adult. I did a lot of public speaking as a kid. And so I've sought to really raise the bar, but it was an important lesson that you do not have to try to be anyone else. You do not have to try and impress anyone. You are enough as is. Your story is enough, and it will resonate with the people who it's intended to resonate with. And for everyone else, they're not your audience. They're not your clients. They're not your tribe. They're not your community, and that's okay. But I've pulled that through in every TV appearance, in every interview, in every course I create, in how I show up when I'm doing my groceries. It's just me. And if it doesn't land, that's okay. But man, has it ever landed.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God. I'm just feeling so much like authenticity from you and how raw that experience was for you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
how transformational that was as well. How pivotal. I think this is a beautiful, sharing that, everyone can relate to, especially women. There are many reasons for why we don't just allow ourselves to be seen for who we are, and we're taught to be more of this, more of that. The advertisement companies are always like, here's the next perfume to smell better, to look better, to like, as you were always never enough. So we live in this like not enoughness disease culture. Then how refreshing it is to just like feel you. Right. And we talked about this earlier, how it's so uncommon to be like how beautiful it is to just own who you are, own your successes, celebrate them. Tell me, what are you celebrating this week? What are the good things that are happening for you? What have you accomplished or experienced, or just what's alive for you? And it's like shifting that paradigm from.
It's a huge shift.
Yes.
And before you mentioned that your vision of success required you to make some changes, and sometimes people will think like, oh, success coach and change management professional, that's an interesting combination. But the reality is that if we want something we've never had, we have to do things we've never done, and that's going to require changes. That's going to require that paradigm shift, a change in mindset, a change in behavior, a change in habits. And that's where the two go hand in hand, is really you mentioned accountability as well, as helping people stay accountable to the changes that will support and sustain what they want to achieve, their vision of success.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amazing. I think this is like super good, super juicy, and
super cheerful.
Yes. So I want to wrap it up, and on my end, I'm doing women's empowerment coaching. So I want to make that available to women to book a discovery call, and having a mentor, having a coach that inspires you and pushes you to the next level. And then you have a few events and offerings that you want to share with us as well.
Sure.
I'll let you, do that.
Thank you. So for anyone looking to improve their public speaking, to really position themselves as a thought leader, or understand how they can start getting paid for sharing their story, I have an event coming up on April 4th called The Art of Public Speaking. So check that out, samanthakriss.com/shop. It's the first one in the cart. If you have any questions, do let me know. I have the Bossing Up book. It's available across retailers in Canada as well as on Amazon. And for this incredible summit that Marina is hosting, for the listeners, for the people who are tuning in, if you use code BOSS30, you will get 30% off. So again, that's at samanthakriss.com. Feel free to claim that and support the fellow women for International Women's Day. And if you resonated with anything that I said, feel free to follow me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. And I have The Catalyst with Samantha Kriss. It's a brand new podcast. I released episode 5 today, so it's really, really fresh. But it's weekly content that is all about the catalyst for change. It's about identifying that trigger for change, knowing how you can lean into it a little more readily. And the guests share real life stories of how they've gone through it, some of the hardships that they've faced, and the triumphs as well. So it's a great platform, if I do say so myself. Feel free to check it out and connect with me wherever you're at.
Amazing, exciting. Oh, Samantha, it's been such a joy to have you with us here today. And thank you so, so much. It's a
Thank you.
real honor and pleasure for me to experience and feel your authentic nature and just being in that. It's so inspiring. And
I think that's
what...
the first time I've ever cried.
Yes.
Quite like that. Yeah.
That's my medicine. I do that to people. But it's so amazing to celebrate like your raw, authentic nature and to be side by side and, not having to pretend to be different or it for be other than what it is. It's
Right.
beautiful. And that's what I'm really inviting forward, and hopefully that, gets transmitted to our listeners as well, is your authenticity, your gifts that are so unique are what's needed. That is the medicine that is so hard to bring out, but yet that is the juice. That's where that diamond is at, right? It's like the way out is through. So you gotta feel it to
and
get
that's
to it.
what sets you apart. I mean, coaches, consultants, like what other kind of teachers? I mean, no matter what profession, they're a dime a dozen, but what's going to set you apart, what's going to help you resonate with your students, with your team, with your clients, with your family, is your story, is your voice. And there's enough people trying to compete and copy and emulate. They're going to fizzle out real quick. The way for sustained success is, one, starting to know yourself, and two, starting to share yourself.
Yeah. And I'll add the number 3 to it, is having, group of women or peers that are supporting and celebrating that uniqueness, right? And that's a big one as well. So thank you for being one of them.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so honored. Yeah. And wishing everyone an amazing day. Stay tuned.